Today we will be going over the proper installation of ACE Security Laminate on auto glass. We will start by spraying the whole surface evenly. The spray we are using consists of 8 milliliters of soap to 1 liter of water. Be sure to use enough water so any greasy spots and debris are soaked up to be removed properly. We will now use a flat edge stainless steel scraper to clean the surface. Using a 45-degree angle and scraping towards the top and bottom edges of the glass with several small motions, we will clean the surface of any debris. Be sure to follow the curve of the glass, never go side to side. We will now do a fine cleanup of the surface using a scrubbing pad to remove any greasy deposits and oils that have not been collected with the scraper. Respray the surface and wipe the surface thoroughly. This is particularly important for the perimeter of the glass, so be sure to clean the whole glass surface. We will now use a squeegee to remove the rest of the residue. Always be sure to keep the blade of the squeegee clean. Cleaning it with a dry shop towel after each pass will ensure it stays debris-free. Dry the edges of the surface with a lint-free shop towel, and lastly, we will spray the whole surface once more to do a final pass with the squeegee. Again, always ensure the squeegee blade remains clean by drying it with a dry shop towel after each pass. For this final squeegee, we will use a slight angle to ensure the residue all goes in one direction and no streaks are left on the surface. Never hold the tool straight, always at a slight angle. We want the residue to be pushed out on the wet side of the squeegee, leaving a perfectly clean surface on the opposite side with no streaks or residue left behind. We also want to make sure there is a bit of an overlap between each pass so that no residue is left behind. With all of these tips in place, these being the blade at a slight angle and a slight overlap between passes, this method is called the snowplow method, and we will use it throughout the installation process. Lastly, we will dry the perimeter once more using our shop towel. Next, we will spray both sides of the oversized laminate thoroughly. Having a second person to hold the laminate is very important for this step. Once we have sprayed both sides of the laminate, we will then pull back the release liner while simultaneously spraying the laminate. Once the liner is completely removed and the laminate is thoroughly sprayed, we will then wet the glass completely. Once both the laminate and the glass are completely wet, we will now center the oversized laminate over the window and slowly place it down with excess material on all 4 sides. Now, we will spray the entire surface until it is completely covered in water. We will then use a Blue Max bumping tool to remove the water from underneath the laminate. We will now use the same snowplow method as before by putting the tool at a slight angle towards the wet side of the blade to ensure no streaks or residue are left behind on the dry side of the blade. Once we have bumped the entire window, we will now use the exact same snowplow technique with the Blue Max around the perimeter of the surface to remove any excess liquid. We will now trim the excess laminate. To begin, we will snap off a new section of the blade while holding our hand over the knife to catch any pieces of the old blade. We are using 1.5 snap outs. To start the trim, we will cut straight into the laminate until we are up against the window. At this point, we will need to make the blade flush perpendicular to the glass, and then angle it 45 degrees down on the sharp side of the blade and 45 degrees over tilted towards the glass. We will now cut around the perimeter of the glass using this same technique, flush with the glass, 45 degrees back and 45 degrees in. We will now dry around the perimeter with our shop towel before we begin bumping. Now, starting with a large bumping tool and working our way down in size, fold over a shop towel and place it on the blade of the tool. Using as much pressure as possible, we will push the tool along the glass to remove any excess water from under the laminate. As before, use the snowplow method by angling the blade of the tool slightly towards the side that has not yet been bumped. Once the entire surface has been bumped, we will use the tool to go around the entire perimeter of the glass, again while using the snowplow method. Once we have bumped the entire glass and its perimeter, we will now repeat the exact same steps while using a smaller bumping tool, in this case, a black vinyl card. Place a clean shop towel over the tool, and while using as much pressure as possible and the snowplow method, begin bumping the glass. It is very important to remember to overlap passes with the bumping tools, and with the small tool we are using now, a half card length of overlap is recommended for each pass. Now, using our measuring gauge, we will measure our car door's window to see how far the glass goes past the gasket. This is only done on the sides. Our window gasket is half an inch. Now, we will mark the length of the gasket on the side of our window, measuring from the edge to the length of the gasket. Flip the glass over before beginning the next step. We will now apply a strip of tape at the marks we left on the side of the glass. We will repeat the same steps on the opposite side of the glass. Remember, we are only doing this procedure on the left and right sides, not the top or bottom. We will now flip the glass back over. Now, on the side of the glass we installed the laminate on, we have a guide to trim the length of the gasket on the left and right sides of the window. We will once again get our knife and snap off our blade to reveal a new one. We will now place our blade at the start of our cut, and again, cut at a 45-degree angle on the sharp side of the blade towards the glass and 45 degrees inwards towards the middle of the glass. We will follow the line we made with the tape to ensure a straight trim at the length of the gasket. Now, repeat the exact same steps on the opposite side of the glass, and remember, we are not trimming the top or bottom, only the left and right sides. We will now place another clean shop towel over our vinyl card bumping tool and bump the trimmed edges again on both sides using the snowplow method and as much force as possible. Finally, we will remove the tape from both sides. As we can see, we have only trimmed the sides to the length of the gasket. The top and bottom are not trimmed. You have now successfully installed ACE Security Laminate on your auto glass.